Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We want to welcome you, whether you're joining us live or for a replay. And thanks for popping in today to Impossible Live. I am delighted today to be spending part of Memorial Day with the amazing, dynamic America's Supermom, also known as LaChelle Adkins. And what I love is LaChelle as always has brought amazing energy, not just a glow from having her first granddaughter. So congratulations for that.
Thank
With
you.
smiles across the miles and toast to the family. But I'd love to welcome her and just give her a chance to let you know how amazing she is. And then we'll dive a little bit deeper into today's topic. And thank you, LaChelle, for coming up with helping me come up with the power of attention as today's topic. But definitely let us know about wonderful you and ways others can find you. So thank you
Well,
so much for joining us.
thank you so much for having me, Melanie. I am excited to be here. And I come with so many bells and whistles. I'm excited that it is Memorial Day. And this really is a fun day for me because it really reminds me of what my brand is, who I am, and what I stand for. As we take this moment to really remember those who have sacrificed their lives for our freedoms and our ability to express ourselves, to be our individual, unique selves, it's important to really reflect and think about what that means to us. As they dedicated their lives for us, being in this time and place today, what are we doing with that power that they have entrusted in us? Are we using it for the best of our ability? So, as you mentioned, I am America's Supermom. My husband and I have 15 children. And on my journey, I lost my way through depression for 13 years. I was hospitalized 3 times. And now I am passionate about bringing up the topic, talking about strategies and tips that I could share with other women and moms who may be struggling with some of the same things that I battled. And some of these are not having boundaries, not taking time for self care, feelings of rejection, seeking validation, people pleasing, and the list goes on, y'all. You would think that would be enough, but I'm telling you, there's more things like trying to put 15 things in a day when you can only realistically do 2 or 3. So I could go on for hours about that, but I am excited to be here today. And as you can see, I'm really all geared up. I want to give a shout out to my daughter, Elizabeth Noel. She's 21 and she has just been certified to do lashes. She's also working another 9 to 5, but she's working to get her business going. And I just want to highlight her because she bought these glasses for me. And that's one of the things that really I am so excited about is for my family and children to support me on the journey that I'm in. Whenever they come across something red, white, and blue, they're like, Mommy, this is American Supermom stuff. So I love it. I get gifts that I probably would not normally get, right? But since I've made it clear and easy for them, they'll get me anything red, white, and blue, and they always knock it out of the park with that. So I am glad to be here with you today, Melanie, and looking forward to our conversation.
To LaChelle, and especially from the perspective, I had a pleasure of watching you with Phil Gilks on Phil's The Business Renovator
Hmm.
podcast and live stream, and it led us. I adore Phil. He's my kaleidoscope godfather, so to speak, for positive intelligence. Just an
Hmm.
intelligent, amazing gentleman with a fabulous laugh. I couldn't even describe it. He's got like the most amazing sense of humor. He's got really keen insights. He's a
Hmm.
very caring coach.
Hmm.
And your conversation with him had to do with excuses, and it kind of led us in the process of trying to figure out a topic towards. We started out talking about excuses, was one of the headlines that you and
Hmm.
Phil covered.
Hmm.
I really appreciated it because always really keen insights from your amazing conversations and your podcasts and your books and your posts and your communities that you help us build. But you also rock live streams and podcasts. You make it look easy.
Oh.
And what I loved was in the conversation with Phil, we've known each other for a little bit now out in these
Mhm.
streets, and I appreciate that. And, we always have interesting collaborations, but watching you with Phil, I got to learn a different side. And Phil's introduced me to positive intelligence, and we talk about saboteurs, whether
Mhm.
you're procrastinating or you're an avoider, or and pop in some other times because we'll talk more about it over our conversations. But I'm fascinated by mental fitness. But what
Mhm.
you and Phil really caught me with was the ability to help me stop from wherever I was. And you and I started talking about a different word to replace attention.
Mhm. Mhm.
And excuses led us to a conversation about intention.
Mhm.
And then we dove a little bit deeper, and we were like, you were like, hey, should we change the word? But in a cool way, with all these amazing platforms, with your amazing family, with your really vibrant personal and business brand, you really do demonstrate and ways to build the power of attention for those just
Mhm.
starting out, whether they're solopreneurs, whether they're dreamers, whether they're trying to build a stronger team. Where would you suggest that others start? And what does
Well,
attention mean to you?
yeah, you are such a dynamic conversationalist. I love how you bring everybody into the room and conversation. You always have that gift to do that. Whether we are on a clubhouse platform, on a live stream, one of your open houses, or a phone conversation, you just have that way of including people in the conversation. So I appreciate that. And, that really is a testament to really being an active listener and thinking about what it is that you want to say and being intentional with your words. And I really appreciate that because there is so much value that we get from people that there's just not enough time to say it all. I think back on that interview with Phil, and I love the way that it went. But it's like, you look up, you have answer a few questions, and the interview is over. And there's so much more that you could have added to the conversation, but it just makes for great conversation and great connection. So I just want to thank you for that. But in answering the question, I think the first thing really is having a keen sense of who you are. When we don't really know who we are, we don't really know where we stand on a lot of things. And when you don't know where you stand, you can fall for anything. I was having this conversation over the weekend in a clubhouse room. For those of you that may not be familiar, it's an audio social media app. And we were discussing the ability to, I think it was something with intention or something like that, but the point is, we may decide that we want to start a business. And as we're starting this business, um, sorry about that. My kids just keep calling. But anyway, so as we're starting this business, we're aspiring to be like people who are already in that business. So maybe we decide to get alongside them, have them as a mentor and things of that nature. And I was explaining to them that this is a good way to build your business. However, if you're somebody who just aspires to do something, you never will take action. And so you're going to fall for the scams. You're going to fall for all these hoodwink opportunities because you're never going to take action on the advice a lot of times that they give you. And so you're just going to keep falling deeper into that hole. But when you take action on some of the things that you're aspiring to do, you're going to ask better questions, which is going to get you closer to your destination. So if I am into writing a blog, and this is something that I want to do. And so I say, hey, let me get with the top blogger. I want to get their advice on how they did it. They're going to start using some terminology and jargon that I probably might not be familiar with if I haven't even started writing. But if I start writing, I'm going to understand, I'm going to ask different questions that are more momentum driven questions from somebody who's already in movement and in action. So I think the first thing is really knowing who you are, where you stand, so that you are mindful of seeking the right kind of advice. And once you get on that journey and that path, start taking action. I don't know if I was saying this to Phil or not, but it's really hard to steer a parked car, right? We could sit here all day talking about where we're going. You're going nowhere if the car's parked. So that's
Mhm.
how I'll end it with that.
Mm. That's funny, and I love that of what you're saying, because I'm always talking with others about ways to increase our traction so we can kind of shift our gears. What I thought was really interesting when we came up with attention, and besides, anybody who's watching, let us know where you're from. Let us know what you
Mhm,
do. Let us know somebody you'd love to meet so that we can help you spread and strengthen your wings too. Because I think
mhm,
the thing I love about what you were just saying was it's really about our focus. It's about what
mhm,
we choose to pay attention to.
mhm,
It's about how we decide, as you're saying, to really to show up.
mhm,
And I really have to thank you for a lot of encouragement to remind me to show up
mhm,
regularly and to
mhm,
explore some of these other platforms. And thanks to you, I have I actually can say I'm in the process of writing a book, which is just like so thank you so much for that. I think the hard part is what we pay attention to is one way.
mhm,
Ways that others maybe are sharing responses or engagement with us is another way. But I
mhm,
found it interesting when I was looking up definitions of attention. People think a lot of times of attention as ways to help kind of activate. What are we paying attention to?
mhm. Uh,
Or like
Go ahead.
I love there's no and never an apology. You and I are family first, girl.
I
So
know, but I'm curious about these definitions because I think that is so key that you mention that, because a lot of times as we evolve, words have different meanings. I think about, I'm come from a spiritual background where with 15 kids you can't make it without God. That's my story. I don't know about anybody else, but as I read the scriptures, the same words mean different things the more I mature and grow. So it helps me to have new life to see these words. So I think it's important for people to recognize that words matter. And it's so important to make sure that you're on the same page with your words. Because I could say, I really value success, and that is what I'm striving for. However, depending on the people that you're connected to, success may look different. And so we often assume with our ego minds that our definition is the same as everybody else's. We don't understand, well, why are they not concerned about traveling and having the freedom to go and come as they please, because I'm interested in that. That may not be their thing. They may be interested in some other long term goal. And so they're interested in investing and putting their money back into building something that's going to last for generations beyond just, the next 5 years. So looking things up and getting on the same page, I think, is paramount when it even comes to a conversation a lot of times. I
mm,
have learned this on my own journey with overcoming depression, is that so many things that I believe to have a certain definition, are not my definition. And I would go back to success. Success for me is not about a bunch of things. I had that as a kid. I was an only child. It was lonely, had no one to share all these things with. So that's not even something I'm interested in. I value relationships. I value being able to create memories and having memorable events with people. So for somebody else who maybe came from a big family, which is something I struggle with my husband on, he didn't really come from a big family, but he had siblings. So having things matters to him because he didn't have them. So we just have to have this harmony about what is going to be a happy medium for us and the kids, because I grew up with all the material things and it just really left me in a place where I'm not interested in all that. Now, do you have to have those things? Yes. But I am a very less is more type person. But love my freedom and being able to travel. I love being able to start businesses and not be limited by that. But some things I'm just not interested in. And I mean, I have a degree from a very good university, and with the aspiration to have certain career dollar income amounts, but that's just not my thing. So understanding that is a good place to also take into consideration when we're having a lot of these dialogues and conversations.
I love that. And I want to welcome back Rochelle. And Rochelle, thank you so much for your service. And for Rochelle is the CEO and founder of Slay to Success. And she
Mm-hmm.
works with women military leaders of color who are currently serving, facing retirement, who have retired, who are struggling with their identity and limiting beliefs through
Mm-hmm.
one on one and group coaching, taking a deep dive in their fears and insecurities to empower them to slay their lives. And she's an author, a speaker, and a coach. Thank you so much for your service. And I'm really delighted that Rochelle, I had the pleasure of meeting her in the Mosaic Nation on Clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting because one day I was honored to be a speaker in Mosaic. And it was a really great day to have just met Rochelle and some other great members and to listen to their voice. And it's one of the interesting things when I was looking up the different definitions of attention. They say there's three or four. When I
Mm-hmm.
looked at them, to me, there's six
Mm-hmm.
because they shared the definition of sustained attention.
Mm-hmm.
But they talked about arousal, which we mentioned before about our activation level
Mm-hmm.
and degree of alertness.
Mm-hmm.
Was and one of the cool things about that one, I thought, was it really mentions the amount of energy that's behind the arousal and kind of, I guess, how we're stimulated, what stimulates us. Like Lucille was saying, what are we paying attention to?
Mm-hmm.
The other part it mentioned was focused attention. So our ability to focus on some sort of stimuli.
Mm-hmm.
And the other types of attention were selective attention, kind of a focus on one thing at a time, which
Mm-hmm.
can be really challenging for many of us multitaskers. Divided attention, where we're focusing on different events at once. Executive attention, a focus on completing steps to achieve a goal. But they shared the word sustained attention, which is the ability to attend to stimuli or an activity over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love for those who are joining us, let us know what you think is most important to you or if that changes. But I'm like, three definitions, four definitions. I look at these two lists and I'm like, there's only one thing in common. How can there only be three or four different ways? But I
Yeah.
think what I love is you have an amazing attention level and ability to pay attention to stuff that's really important and ignore the rest.
Yeah.
It's
I'm sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. You jump in anytime.
Well,
You
I
jump in
think,
anytime.
I would say that that is the ability to actively listen and be intentional with what you're doing at that time. Because for me, I think there is really, it's not some great skill. It's just shutting everything else out when you're doing something. And everybody has the ability to do this. This is not something that you have to have a MBA for, a PhD. You just have to devote 100% of your intention to what you're doing at the time.
Mm.
So when you're doing that, you're able to hear what's not being said. And that's really where the conversation is. We get so caught up in a lot of these surface conversations and industry driven conversations. And so we say the things that are cliche, the things that really um, make other people think that we are well versed in what we're doing. But when you actively listen, you hear when something's not in alignment. So if I say, you know what, I believe in no excuses. I think that anything is possible. And then I start talking about, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do next week about something. You're going to start to wonder, well, wait a minute, why would you say something like that? You know, that just doesn't seem to be in alignment with what you're saying. So, this is the thing that really is important because the better you are at listening, the more you're able to really do your own research, right? You don't really have to dive very deep in people's profiles and what they're doing. All you have to do is just listen to what they're saying. But what happens is we're so distracted. So, I just heard earlier, you heard the phone ringing. That was my son calling. I put it on silent. Now, most of the time, that's what is going on, right? You're in a conversation, you got all these tabs open on your computer, you're half listening and you're answering, and then you're trying to do this and do that. And so you miss those opportunities to really hear what people are not saying. And so when you take that time, you're able to really have a greater connection because we just have a common language, right? You can hear that vibration of what's not being said. And it's like, man, you really get me. Man, I didn't even say anything. And they really understood what I was trying to say.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I think you're reminding us too that as we're talking about attention, it's a bit more than a two-way street. It
Hmm.
depends on whether we're doing it and trying to gain it through inaction, through our words, through attending an event,
Hmm.
something we're doing online, something we're doing in person. I think it really shifts. I think, like you're saying, the intention, the maintaining the focus is
Hmm.
such an ongoing challenge. We have tons of distractions,
Yeah.
and we're all different people living different lives. I think something that's really caught my attention the last couple of weekends as some really deep stuff continues to happen in what I always
Hmm.
call our fragile world
Hmm.
is conversations with amazing people who I never thought I'd speak to. Somebody
Hmm.
says something and it really hits you on, like you were saying before, on a soul level or on a spiritual level. And it's hard not to respond to it.
My son has jokes. He's over here cutting up. But
Well, hey, hey, hey,
the first one to do
he's
jokes in the
definitely
background.
welcome. And by the way, I have not seen Hope in a while. So, you let them know they are
I know
definitely
he
welcome.
has jokes, but he doesn't want to be on camera. So anyway, he left the room. But I just want to acknowledge that. So you're like, now what is she doing? What I'm saying is
Hey,
not funny,
you
right?
have you have singers in your family,
I,
you have speakers in your family, you have new
hmm.
entrepreneurs, you have authors, you have the dance queens, and kings,
Hmm.
everybody's got their identity, and they are trying to express their voice, and maybe that's one of the wonderful things I think about you having such a large family. There's
Hmm.
a power and a strength in that. And one of the things that I think you really helped me with all the time as and I was a workaholic. So
Hmm.
I didn't believe that being a parent was the job for me because my child would not have seen me.
Mm.
I was that kid in my 20s. Friends would come and pick me up from work at like 10 o'clock at night. I would get a call. Hey, we know you're still at work. We're coming to hang out. We're coming to get you, or here's where you meet us, and we're coming to get you because otherwise we don't want to wait. You'll be working on one more project,
Right.
and And I don't know where I ever got that from, but you see it as a kid,
Mhm.
as the kid of a teacher. And I remember mom was always reading, working on something, and you always had that feeling that there was more work to be done. But I
Mhm.
think I love that you're reminding us that it comes down to focus sometimes. It comes down to alignment. What does it line up with?
Mhm.
Different things catch our attention. I'm not a shiny objects girl. Doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
You could show me a million designer bags. I can see very well long distance, so I can tell you the designer, but it doesn't really capture me, you know.
Right.
And it's
Love
funny,
that.
just like with cars, I waited years to learn how to drive. So
Wow.
I love your story, and as Phil said before, it in response to your question, it's hard to steer a parked car. That's like
Mhm.
riding a bicycle. You can't easily balance standing still. As you're having so many calls though for your attention,
Mhm.
how do you sort through those as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I believe that just here recently, okay, we did this challenge in our community, which you were a part of. We called it 75 Love, where it was leading ourselves victoriously every day. And so we started out the new year stretching ourselves in different areas beyond, what we have already accomplished to this far in our life. And that journey really helped me to stretch out of my comfort zone. I remember before we got started, we had this, exercise stuff we had to do. We had to drink water, read. And so I was all like, I'm a planner because, I'm so conditioned to show up for stuff. And so I want to show up prepared. So it's like, okay, let me map my meals out and all this other stuff. And the day before I started, I just had this epiphany, just being in prayer. And God said, if you're going to enter this the way that you always are, how are you going to grow? Because you're just doing what you always do. How are you going to learn anything new? So I just said, I'm going to take it one day at a time. And that was one of the things that we used as our tagline during that journey was just do today. And so often we get caught up with things that we're doing next month and we lose time with what we're doing right now because we're so focused on the future and what's happening next that we don't use the time that we have wisely. If you know that you're going to have an exam a month from now, but in between that month, you're going to be traveling, you're going to be um, doing all kind of stuff, working or whatever, you're going to figure out, okay, if this test is next month and it's already set what day it's going to be, then it probably is good for me to just do a little studying every day because I got a lot going on. And so mapping that out a little bit each day and doing that consistently rather than thinking you're going to just spend a whole week right before the exam and prepare for it. So if you begin to learn how to work your goals in your daily routine, it's not even going to take that long for you to accomplish them, for one. And then you're going to already have a habit that's built in that you don't have to try to recreate or reinvent the wheel on. So I think when it comes to, I have my pen in my hand, I'm over here taking notes about some stuff you said, but um, the thing that I would say is that, really mapping out what is your goal for the week? What is your goal for the month? 30 days, 60 days. How are these things that you have on your calendar in alignment with that? Are they things that you have to do today? Is this something you could schedule, throughout the time? One of the things that my kids are really good at is they know that I'm a planner. So they say, Mom, you know what are we going to do over the summer? They ask me like way when school is still in because they know that I'm a planner. But what they do is they plant seeds because as they plant a seed and they know that it's not going to happen today, they put that seed in my head. Okay, we need to be thinking of something we're going to do over the summer so that I can start mapping out that journey before the summer comes and kind of setting things up. So just a case in point, my daughter called me this morning and I was on another call. So she called her other sister. And so when she called her other sister, I was doing something. She comes in the room and she says, "Well, Taylor's on the phone and she wants to know, can we do swim day?" And I said, "So what day?" And she's like, "Today." And so I was like, "Well, I don't really have anything planned outside of this interview. So yeah, after we get done with that." But the point is, they know when I have time off and they work around that, but they know about the power of intention, understanding when we're going to do something. And then they mapped it all out. What are we going to eat? Do you guys going to bring food? Do you want me to go to the store? So they've already got all that coordinated, but I think that it is the whole thing of really when you are interacting with people, understanding not just you and what you like, but understanding them and what they like and what you're working with. If you have a friend who has 3 children and you just want to hang out, you have to be mindful of, does she have a babysitter? Do you need to incorporate something with her kids so that you can hang out? I mean, or do you need to talk to her spouse and see if maybe he can watch them while you guys go out? I mean, a lot of times we just get so self motivated that we think about what we want and we want people to join us, but we don't want to consider their situation.
That's fabulous. You really also reminded me of Dad has vascular dementia, so we learn a lot about different things in conversation or planning. And
Mhm.
I'd have to say now he's probably at a point and really grateful at almost 88 where he really has selective attention,
Mm.
and it's about talking about whatever it is he's interested in talking about. That's
Mhm.
where he's at. The
Mhm.
acceptance of that before starting a conversation with him. And if you're watching television, he's going to hear something and he's going to repeat it and it's going to take him someplace. So if you're watching something,
Mm.
and I adore him, we're really selective now about the movies we watch with him. Because if you're watching one of those movies where you got to pay attention to every word, Pop is going to ask you about something that was in the previous scene. He's going to laugh at a joke and he's still really present with that joke as the next joke is on. And I noticed it was really interesting listening to music with him. The music is taking him places and he's sharing stories. Some
Mm.
of them are first time stories we've never heard,
Mm.
and it was really cool. He was talking with his aide, he was talking in French. He hasn't been in
Wow.
France in almost 70 years.
Wow.
And it's just where it takes somebody. So I think that's a really good reminder that it's not just the plan, but it is the selective. It's kind of catching
Mhm.
people where they are,
Mhm.
and participating in something that may not always be of interest to you at that moment. It
Mhm.
may not match with your map of where you're planning on going, or where the goal is. And I think I appreciate it because he's reminded me to approach it with newness. I never know what we're going to talk about. You could enter a room and be about to say something, and Dad has a question. So you answer his question first before something else happens,
Mm.
and you address that. So just a real reminder to kind of really be fully present,
Mhm.
wherever our beliefs are, our ideas are, or our projects are. Thank you for reminding of that. I think it's also a survival skill.
Mhm.
We learn as kids what to pay attention to based on our elders or insights or what's happening in the world. And um, I think that was one of the things that I loved because watching you explore reels, for example, on Instagram, or doing TikToks, and LaChelle is quite the dancing queen, so definitely follow her. Check her out. Check her out on Instagram. Check out her great videos. Check her out on YouTube. We'll have that spotlight. But I love your laughter because you're reminding us to bring joy into it, whatever it
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
And we all need more of that in our lives. So I really just I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much. And that is just definitely, I don't know where I measure up with my kids. I mean, I'm doing these dances that they are teaching me, and it's a work in progress, is what I'll say about that. But I think it's just the ability to have fun. You know, so often we have this idea that if it's not perfect, it doesn't have value, right? And that could not be further from the truth, because you have to start somewhere in order for you to build a more stable foundation. So you're not going to do something that you're not comfortable or even knowledgeable about doing perfect every time until you master the skill behind it. We put unnecessary expectations on ourselves, really impossible. Because if you've never played a piano, but considering that you need to be a concert pianist, understanding how to play Bach and all these other things when you have not even learned what the notes are and how to read music. I mean, that's just crazy. But we do that to ourselves all the time. And people might say, well, I don't understand that analogy, but it's the same thing with your business, right? You start your business from nothing and you're expected to be a millionaire next week. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, right? You're not even sure the price point for some of your products or services, but you're putting that expectation on yourself. Well, my business is invaluable if it's not $1 million business, right? I'm just small change. I heard this gentleman yesterday who was saying that a lot of times we limit our growth because we say that we have a small business. He said, I don't use that word anymore. I say a growing business. Because if someone said, hey, there's that small Melanie, or that small America Supermom, you might be offended, but we want to grow. We want to be successful, and it's an evolution. So we can limit ourselves from the very beginning with our own language before we even get started. So,
I appreciate that. I was working with a very two very talented coaches last week. I'm grateful for them both. And the first one was reminding me that how we approach an activity, the whole step from, as you're saying, from planning it, conceiving it, thinking about it, whether you're acting on instinct, whether you're responding to other stimuli, something else that's external, whether you're on a committee or on a team. But the part I really appreciated was the reminder, as humans, as coaches, we're really here to kind of be a living bridge for each other.
mhm,
And that part to remember, human to human, person to person, everybody's got something going on. And I used to get stuck all the time in perfection paralysis. The
mhm,
beginning of being an entrepreneur, it was analysis paralysis.
mhm,
As I start working with more and more teams and starting to work globally, it's the reminder we each have different ideas of what perfection is. We're not necessarily going to get there on the first date in this lifetime without a lot of input. And there's always opportunities for constructive criticism.
mhm,
And I've replaced the word feedback with feed forward. I saw it in a beautiful
mhm,
article. And person feed forward because you're looking for stuff to keep
mhm,
moving. And sometimes we don't accept that lateral step or feels like we're going in reverse because we paused or hit a pause button.
mhm,
And I really appreciate it because these amazing coaches are reminding me it you really have to consider the motion part and the energy that it's taking and just make chances to replenish it. I've been really enjoying reading recently. I discovered an amazing poet and author recently on LinkedIn, and I really appreciate it because her first words really hit me where I was at a very specific point. I needed to hear her voice. She was saying
mhm,
some things I wasn't sure how to express. She
mhm,
was expressing some emotions that were really challenging to process.
mhm,
And I clicked through. I read 6 articles of hers on Medium. I read a poem. I went to her website. I read a blog. I think people don't realize when you do get somebody's attention or they are of interest, and I'm learning now, is to share the feed forward. Let somebody else know, hey, I see you. I hear you. I feel you. Because sometimes somebody is trying to open up a power or a superpower for us. And I love that you picked the word intention, and I went with you because really to me this is one of your superpowers. You know, you harness it
Mhm.
on many platforms, and you'll say it's not harnessed, you'll say it's a work in progress,
Mhm.
you know, but we see you in so many different areas. And you remind me of you're an amazing community builder and a really inspiring speaker. But I think of all the collaborations, the doors you're opening and that you're inviting others through
Mhm.
as you're holding and opening new doors for each other. Where in the world do you get that energy from?
I get it from the people that I surround myself with because, I think we all keep that energy going. It's just like playing tennis, going back and forth across the net with the ball. And, there are those moments, if you think about a team that's working, right? The way that the team works is that you can keep subs coming in the game, right? And so we have to decide who's going to be on our team. And so as we surround ourselves with the team members, it's that energy that keeps us in motion. And everybody doesn't have the same position, and there's times that we sometimes rotate our positions. 1 minute we might be a point guard, which the thing I think is being able to switch in and out of roles. I think that's important. So as we learn to build community, this is something that I've learned so well over the past year with our clubhouse community, Elephant Strategy Club, is that the ability to be able to be a leader and a follower all in a same setting, right? We're on stage. You've got people that are moderators, that are, holding space. And then next thing you know, you're a follower because someone says something that really resonates with an experience that you hadn't even realized was an issue that you had a problem with, and then learning how to navigate that in real time and ask the right questions so that you can move through that. So having the ability to do that in a conversation and being humble about being able to do that. I mean, I have learned so much by being in that position, is recognizing that being a leader is the same as being a follower because you never know when the tables are going to turn, but one thing that's sure is that if you are authentically you, you're just going to not have that extra time that's lost by trying to figure out what the next move is. I mean, just imagine if you were on a boat, and I don't know anything about a boat because, I'm not a captain or anything like that, but I'm just saying everything's smooth. But then, you were in a situation where you had to do all the positions because you just didn't have your staff. You should be well versed to be able to do it all, right? And so that's just how it is. You would be able to switch from one thing to the next seamlessly. And so that's how we can be if we are really honest about our situation or who we are, so that we don't get a situation where we're losing time and putting ourselves and other people at jeopardy. I hope that made sense.
It definitely made sense, and it's a reminder too to be adaptable and to be
Mhm.
flexible. You know, just
Mhm.
like we're saying, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what your role is, no matter what your perspective is, you
Mhm.
know, to be able to switch seats and to change them. It
Mhm.
reminds me a lot of working with large teams, because
Mhm.
you never know when somebody steps away what your new role is,
Mhm.
unless you plan or practice or on the same page, or share the goals.
Mhm.
But I am delighted that you joined us today. I am delighted again to toast to you and your beautiful growing family. And to which you see, that's smart, because I'm telling you, it is hot. It is pretty warm here today. So I'm going back to, as you said, 75 hard. I'm going back to 75 love, because one of
Amen.
my real goals with it was to remember self-love and self-care. So
Mhm.
I'm going back to that. But
Mhm.
this one's to you, and thank you so much for joining me, for all of the wonderful energy that you bring. And boy, I love swimming. I hope you have a fantastic swim day with your beautiful family. Enjoy celebrating. Thanks for bringing the sparkle, the pizzazz, and beautiful sense of LaChelle, so that
Oh.
others can catch up and connect and follow you and come hang out with us in Elephant Strategy Club on LinkedIn, on
Mhm.
Facebook, on Clubhouse,
Mhm.
and check out amazing LaChelle's podcasts, TV, books, presentations. She's laughing because she does it all.
Oh.
Her stories, her live stream, and her amazing, beautiful, vibrant voice. But thank you for bringing it all to us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Melanie. And I really appreciate you. And I love what you're doing here on LinkedIn. And anything that I can do to support you, please just let me know. Because, it is really a challenge to build up a following. A lot of people think, oh, you're just going to get on a platform and have all these followers. And I always think about Oprah with this, right? She has such a following with her show. And when she decided to have a network, that's when things just were like, oh my gosh, why isn't everything just transferring over, And it is really helping people to understand evolution. It doesn't come overnight, it's a process. And so, yeah, you have some brand recognition, but people have to trust you in different areas that they've never trusted you in. Yeah, we have the ability to use our relationship to leverage new relationships or new business opportunities. But at the end of the day, we are human. And a lot of us have limiting beliefs. It would be nice if we could just say, you know what, she was successful here. I'm sure she's going to be successful here. But it just doesn't happen like that, you know?
It certainly doesn't, and the reminder to just really be flexible and adapt
Hmm.
and keep on reaching. But thank you so much for joining I'm Possible Live today and reminding me and others who didn't really know when we met you that I'm possible.
Amen.
You're possible. We're all possible. So thank you so much for all of your encouragement and your incredible support. And thank you everybody who's joining us today, live and on replays. Let us know who you are. Let us
Hmm.
know how you are and ways that we can help you. And we're looking forward to seeing you again soon. Stay safe, stay well, stay inspired, stay in touch, and have a magnificent day and a safe, peaceful holiday as we're honoring people like my uncle Ali, who
Hmm.
was a Buffalo soldier. Take a minute to
Hmm.
pause and give thanks and show gratitude and reach out and let somebody know that you're hearing them and caring for them. Stay
Yeah.
safe, be well.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Thanks again, LaChelle.